So how should you eat when you are a super ager? What we eat is really important to how we age well. And it's probably one of the most important factors overall. But we also need to consider how we eat. So by this, I mean how much and how often we eat. So not just what we eat. Hi, I'm Marianne from One Life to Flourish, and welcome to tonight's episode of Monday Motivation. And in tonight's episode of Super Aging, we're going to be looking into the hows of eating so that we age well. So if you know someone who might find this topic really interesting and really helpful, then please make sure they get an invite across to see it. Also say hi if you're watching live and let me know. And if you're watching the replay, just use hashtag replay so I know where you're coming from. All right, so far in the Super Aging series, I've talked about some things that it's really good to eat that can actually help to slow down aging. Now, these are all our really healthy whole foods, the things that we constantly hear that we should be eating because we should be eating them. So that's our fruits, our vegetables, our legumes and beans, all of those kinds of things. So far, I haven't talked about another aspect of that, which is actually the whole grains, but I will get to that in another episode. But during last week, I was reading something that made me think that there's probably a little bit I need to add on to what we're talking about to do with eating, and that's the how of actually eating. So there's a few different things that I want to look at with that. The first part, though, is how much to eat, and this actually goes back to what I was reading about. So we're often told that we should be adding fruits, vegetables, beans, and all those kinds of things to our diet. Now, because it's kind of said as adding it as an add-on, then one of the mistakes that we can make is by just adding that to the diet that we already have and thinking that that's going to make it a healthy diet. That's not actually the case. What we actually have to do is a bit of a balancing act. So when we add something more natural into our diet, we need to balance that by taking something that's highly processed out of our diet. Okay, so that's the how that we should be doing. So replace rather than add. And that way we're going to be feeling fuller because of the way that whole foods work. We'll be able to control our hunger more and cravings if you have problems with that, but more about that in future episode. But the really important thing is that it actually helps us to reduce our calories, but particularly empty calories, because we need to actually fill up on quality calories. All right, so this leads into the next part, which has to do with how we should eat each day. Now, at this point, I'm not going to talk about fasting, but I will get to that because there's actually lots of research around the impact of certain kinds of fasting in helping us to age well. But what I'm going to talk about now is just restricting your eating times. So I suppose it is a kind of fast, but anyway, just restricting it. So the best thing to do is to actually limit our eating to like a 10-hour window every day. Now, the reason for that is that it actually helps our hormones, and particularly insulin, to actually be able to balance themselves out each day, and also just a whole body to repair itself each day when we're not continually grazing, continually having all of those processes involved in digestion having to take place over many hours. And that's not really good for us, and it's actually not good for how we age. Now, this is kind of contrary to a lot of things that we've probably heard for a while, which is that it's a good idea to have, like 6 small meals a day. There's actually more recent research and probably older research that has actually shown that this is probably not the best, particularly as we're aging. In fact, the old-fashioned way that our grandparents probably ate, where they had, 3 meals a day, we didn't have snacks in between, is probably one of the best ways to actually eat in terms of how we balance out our body system. All right, so think about that. So the habit is to actually try and have at least 12 hours where you're not eating something. Best way to do that is overnight. So make sure that you have about 12 hours between your evening meal and then eating something the next day. And this really does help your body to rebalance itself really well. All right, so what are some great actions to take around how to eat? There are a few, and some of them do actually mean making some bigger changes in how you're living your life. So, first one is for every healthy whole food that you add to your diet, remove something that is highly processed. Now, this is going to help your gut health to be more balanced and work better. And it's going to help you to feel satiated, so full and happy with what you're eating. And it will also improve the nutrients that you're actually getting that also help with aging well. Now, the next one, so number 2, is as part of increasing your whole foods, work towards removing as many empty calories as you can and replacing them with foods that have healthy calories. So that actually will help you to reduce your number of calories overall because whole foods fill you up more. But it's also just going to, kind of make you feel better overall. All right, next one that I've talked about is to make sure that you have at least 12 hours between your last meal one evening and your next lot of eating the next day. The ideal is actually 14 hours if you can manage it. I have tried. It depends what I'm doing. If I've got to get off to work, doesn't quite work, but I can manage the 12 hours. It does take a little bit of planning around that. All right, try to have one meal a day that actually focuses on sharing food and being social. Now, this is a really important part of being a super ager, how we're making connections with people. And it's actually been found that it does help us with the way that our body uses our food if we're actually doing it socially. And all of these things are going to help you to age better. So if you are currently in your midlife, now is actually the best time to start focusing on how to age well and to build these positive habits, improve your life now so that you can age well over the long term. So it's basically about going, this is the decision I'm going to make. I'm going to become a super ager. All right, so if you are wanting more information about any of these ideas that I've talked about, then consider joining the private group, The Magic of Midlife. Now, in this group, it's all about how to live your best midlife, but also how to prepare yourself to age well. And in there, there's extra information, there's things to do with the episodes that we have and all that kind of thing. So there is a link that can take you straight there to ask to join the group. Now, also, if you are a woman who's in the middle of her life, then you might enjoy watching my other broadcast, which is called Menopause is Not a Dirty Word, that I have on Fridays. At the moment, I'm swapping between afternoon and evening, depending on what's happening, but it's sort of later on Friday. Now, also, if you are a woman who is in midlife and you're kind of feeling like things are a bit blah and you've lost your mojo, then Midlife Mojo Queen program is here to help you actually reclaim your life again and feel like you are in control, that you are empowered. And at the moment, I am having a launch of the introductory program in early March. It has been specifically created to provide you with the kind of support that will empower you to change your life and to have a better experience of midlife and of some aspects of menopause as well. So if you'd like some more information about that, just put Mojo in the comments and I will give you some details. All right, please join me next Monday night at the same time when I will be going into some more ideas around nutrition as part of being a super ager, because there's lots of stuff in there about what we put into our body that is great for us to know. So join me then, get some more tips. But in the meantime, think about how to do some of those things that I talked about. They do take a little bit more planning, but making the biggest changes sometimes just means we have to go, this is what I'm going to do, isn't it? And it really is worth it. I mean, everything that I talk about are things that I've actually changed in my life for the better. So I'm not saying anything that I've not done. So I know what the struggle can be like. I've been there, done that. All right. So hang in there. It is possible to change your experience of midlife and to face aging in a more positive way. All right, I will leave it there. So I look forward to seeing you next week or on Friday for the Menopause is Not a Dirty Word program. Goodbye for now.